Hello and welcome to a new set of videos for a fairly new piece of software out, or the version 2 version of Pilot to ATC. My name's Alpha117, and if you've watched my other videos before, you know what I've done in the past. I'm going to put a big disclaimer before we go any further. I'm going to do these videos and there's no way that this is meant to be or deemed to be any way comparing Pilot to ATC with Pro ATC X, PF3 or any other ATC program currently available on the market. I'm going to put quite a few of these together, I think, and go down the same route as by previous videos. This one is just going to be an introduction to the interface and some of the functionality. I want to try and keep this under 30 minutes, but it will probably just go on a bit longer. There's no script. I'm just doing this live as we speak. I've been testing this with Dave, who is the developer of Pilot to ATC. We started this back last September, but Dave, I think, has been developing this since version 1. Over nearly a year and a half ago. This is going to be version 2 of where we are. As you can see, this is the user interface you see when you firstly power up Pilot to ATC. I'm going to call it P to A. It's the same. I think everybody will start calling it that. Pilot to ATC is a bit of a mouthful, I think. So P to A. So this is the major screen here. As you can see, you've got the world map here. There is a lot of functionality and a lot of information you can get from this, especially once we start looking at importing flight plans and having a look at SIDS and stars and how it all works together. So let's start with this big major screen on the left hand side here. I just want to say to you firstly, if you're just there, they are resizable. Okay, I'm quite a big widescreen monitor here, but the two parts here are resizable, and you'll see that when we input a flight plan from that. There's different types of maps you can see. These are live maps, and down here there's one way of changing them here. We've got a satellite map, we've got a terrain map here, and we can zoom in. I'm zooming using my mouse wheel, that's one way, but up here you've got also the plus and minus as well, and I'm just holding my left mouse button down and I can squeal about on the map. The next map you've got here is a street map, and I can zoom straight in, okay, to a street map there. And also we've got the relief map there as well. Horses for courses, depends what you're flying. VFR, you probably want something like that, or if you're IFR flying in PMDG or any jetliners on Q400, then we could be onto that. There's the UK. So those there, you've got the high airways map as well, which then puts all the upper airways on there, so you can actually see those as well. You've also then got the low airways chart there, and that will put in the low airways as well. We've also here got VFR charts, and if you mouse over anything on this screen, it tells you what they do. The VFR chart is USA only, and in another video I'll show you how you can look at charts and bring in charts into this interface and have a look at them, and to work out SID stars and airways, etc. Along the bottom here, let's just go back to a terrain map. Here we can show airports, and it's multi-clicking some of these buttons. So if you look at here now at this roll over here, click for hard surface long, click for hard surface, and click shows all. And actually, if you actually then just mouse over there, it gives you what they are and their ICAO codes as well. And lastly, I can turn it off. Same, I can do NDBs, and I can put the NDB compass rose around it and turn it off. I can do the same with those, and it will show intersections. If there's any, if you can see them, I can't see. Yeah, there is there, I think. If we go to the satellite map, might be easy to see. There we go. You can see the intersections there. You can center map on the aircraft once you're connected. Let's turn those off. Center map on selected airport. Center map on the route. And you can turn traffic alerts on and off. It will actually show the AI traffic that's live around you in the sim. So that's the bottom line across there. You've got a scale here as well, and the scale moves in and out as you zoom in and out the map. Another function is also if you want to measure a distance, which comes in quite handy, hold the right button down, click and drag and let go, and you get the distance and the bearing there of how far it was from point A to point B. So that's that. Down here we've got a set of buttons, info buttons about the flight plan, frequencies, runways, taxis, weather and approaches. These are all to do with a flight plan once they're loaded. Up the top here, on the top of the map, we've got map mode. Again, we can just keep clicking through the maps, and you'll notice if you look down here, it cycles through all the maps. Okay, you can do an ICAO code search. So let's just find EDDM. Okay, enter, goes away and takes us directly to Munich Airport. And again, we can scroll out and we can see all the airports. And the beauty, I think, of this one is when you'll see, once we're connected to the sim, it puts your aircraft in the correct place as well, and you'll see all the AI correctly positioned around you as well. And it's quite impressive, to be honest, if you see that. I like that. And you see the taxis routes when we look at that later. So that's the map really, and just scrolling around the map, you can move it around and search for a code. Let's go across to across the outside of the pond. What it'll do, there we go, takes you away to JFK. Okay, and you'll see in the other videos how that all works together. So that's the map. So very impressive, to be honest. Well, I think one of the good features of P2A. Let's have a look across the top. And again, most of these are blank at the moment because we've got no flight plan loaded and we've got no connection to a sim. We've got a timer here, and we can do a reset timer. Sometimes, especially if you're doing VFR, you want to time yourselves from VOR to NDB. In turboprops, Q400 for example, you might want to set the timer for the 30 seconds between engine starts. So it comes with a lot of functions there, but it's a timer that resets itself once you're connected. Across the top here we've got the current waypoint, the distance, the desired track to the current waypoint, the estimated time, the distance to the waypoint, the destination estimated on time, the true airspeed, the ground speed, the altimeter setting, the ident and the transponder code here. Again, these become live and a bit more relevant once we see a flight plan loaded and we are actually connected. Okay, so we've got the flight plan window here. This is this big black place here, and all these buttons across here are relevant to a flight plan. So I think the easiest way, I think, is to show you this working. Let's just import a standard FSX.pln flight plan, which we all have, and the majority, I think, of us nowadays are exporting it from a flight planner, whether it be PFPX or another third party, providing your flight planner exports standard.plm files, then P2A can import them, and we've got an import and export button here. So let's hit import, and it takes us to my flight sim files, and I've got quite a few in here. Let me just load up a good one out of Marseille down to Mallorca, LFML to LEP. Just open it and it goes away, and it will import that flight plan. There we go. Now again, this is where we can now stretch, or what you want to do to make our windows look however you want them. So there's your standard flight plan there, guys. Start, airport, the waypoints in between, and your destination airport there. And there's no departure, no SIDS, no stars, no arrivals. But we're going to import those, and we're going to see how that goes in a minute. So across the top here, we've got the flight plan type, whether it's IFR or VFR. Across the top here, we can create a new one. We can validate the flight plan. Once we've finished playing around with it, once we looked at our departures, once we looked at our SIDS, we can validate to make sure that it is actually valid. In other words, the altitudes are correct. It'll double check all the tracks just to make sure everything's okay. And then you've got the button here that says file. That's when you're connected to a sim, and you're going to actually file this flight plan to ATC clearance. And then when you apply for clearance, then they'll give you the clearance, and we'll take it from there. If you forget to file the flight plan, you'll be told by ATC when you try and get clearance. They will politely tell you that unless you give us a flight plan, guys, we can't give you clearance. So that's how that works. We've got the cruise altitude here, 240. That's taken from the flight plan. You can change that in a minute. I'll show you how to do that. We've got planned ground speed, planned distance, our estimated time en route, our descent rate, and our TOD distance. These are all changeable. Okay. But the first thing we're going to do, we're going to actually look at the weather. If we just click in our departure runway, our departure airfield, we can then have a look at the info that P2A's got on this so far. So we press that, we get a nice little dialog box at the top here. It gives you the name of the airport, the elevation, the magnetic variance, and the active runway. That's quite important. So today, currently, it's runway 31 right from there. I can close that again by just clicking the button. Let's have a look at the weather. Now this brings up the weather currently, 2100 hours Zulu, it's the time this is being recorded. The weather, and it interprets the METAR report. So it's all there. If you don't really understand or can't decode the METAR report, it tells us there. Again, we're interested in the winds, 300 at 17. And obviously we're interested in QNH as well, 1016. So that's the decoded weather there. Okay. We can actually bring the runways up if you're not quite sure. And there you see the runways there with the ILS frequencies next to them. So that's handy. The frequency button becomes active once you're connected, and it will give you all the current frequencies around you, all the frequencies for the current airport. And the taxi button here, if you press that, once you're connected and you've been given taxi instructions, it will actually draw taxi instructions on the map here, and you can follow those as well, which I think is another very, very good function of P2A. Let's have a look at some of the bottom buttons here. You can actually add waypoints and delete waypoints if you want to. You can move waypoints up and down the flight plan for whatever reason you want to do that. If you want to add a waypoint or you want to rejig the flight plan, it's up to you. We're going to add a SID, a standard instrument departure, out of Marseille. And let's just have a look at what this does. Click the SID button. It goes away and looks at the data for LFML. It's a bit slow here because I'm actually running this and the recording software at the same time. A lot of data on this screen that's come up. One of the good things that P2A will do is it will give you the recommended SID here. So if you've got very little understanding of how these standard departures works, P2A will do all the work for you, and we're just going to take the recommended SID and off we go. But let's have a look a bit further at all the data we've got here. Again, it's given us the active runway just in case we've forgotten. It gives you the recommended here, okay, for 3-1 left, the MAMS for November, and via the MAMS transition, and it will draw it here on the map as well. Okay, we can then, if we're happy with that, we can load it, we can unload it. In other words, we can load the SID here into the flight plan. If we're not happy with it, we say no, we want another one, we can unload it and load another one, or we can cancel out this totally together. Here it gives us the route to our transition, gives us our direction in degrees and our distance there. If you're not happy with that, we can actually come and change this here, okay, and pick any other runway we want. So if we want 13 left, it'll go to way to 13 left. Look at the transitions that are available, okay, for this runway, and here gives you all the different SIDs that are available, and we can take our pick from the one we want. But I want the proper one, okay, so I'm going to load that, and it loads it into the flight plan. If I zoom out on the map, you'll now see the SID has been added to MAMS here. MAMS our transition, MAMS was our first waypoint of our route, okay, and you can see that it's added the SID to the route. So that's the first part done. And if we scroll down here to Ibiza, okay, Palma, Ibiza, yeah, I wish it was, Palma de Mallorca here, we now can see the last waypoint of our route is CDP. So let's have a look at, see what the recommended star will be. We could click on LPA and go through the info. The active runway is 24 right. We could look at the weather, and it's 250 at 22. QNH is 1011, and a lot of other data there as well. So we're going to click the star. Goes away, and again it picks up the recommended. Take that if you want to, and it will then add that to the route. Okay, so we've got the departure out of Marseille here to there, along our route, down to our star, the Lüneck 1 Papa star, which starts at Lüneck there, and we just need our approach. And again, we can take the recommended. It recommends us an ILS approach to runway 24, and it's going to pick the Zulu approach. And we can pick the vectors, or because we know that by looking at our charts, we know that we're going to have the transition of MJV, and you'll see it come down to there and goes into there. And if I just click load that, so now there's our complete flight plan. Across here, I just want to show you, zoom in across side here. Okay, you can see it comes down to CDP, comes down to MJV, up in, and then into the airport. You'll notice the piece in red here. That is the missed approach. So for example, you're coming down and you think you're not going to make it, for whatever reason, you're too high, too fast, weather, whatever. You declare a miss approach, and that is this missed approach out of the airport. We're flying to there, turn left into a hold, and wait for ATC to then vector us back for another approach. One thing I haven't mentioned, which I will mention, is P2A is AIRAC usable. This is currently on the latest AIRAC cycle, 1602. Currently, it only supports the Aerosoft AIRAC Data, Nav Data Pro. Are in negotiations with Navigraph and Richard over there, and hopefully in the near future, Navigraph can produce a data set for Pilot to ATC. It ships with version cycle 1510. So if you haven't got a subscription to Aerosoft's Nav Data Pro, it ships with a cycle that's not too far out of date, to be honest. And I thought they would give us one that was a bit later, but that's fine. And another thing while I'm just mentioning AIRAC Nav Data, if you are using Navigraph like myself, and obviously from my point of view I can use either or depending on what I want, but predominantly I use Navigraph, and I've been using Navigraph AIRAC Data in the Q400 and the PMDG, along with Pilot to ATC, who uses the Aerosoft Nav Data Pro. There's not a big difference, to be honest. The biggest difference I've found is that the naming of some of the approach waypoints are different. Don't let that panic you. They are the same. There's been some approaches that do slightly different, but that's just purely down to the AIRAC data, not P2A. I think I've had about 2 or 3 routes where I've had to just slightly tweak the FMC flight plan. But one of the main things is that some of the naming conventions are different. Now, the waypoints are the same, there's just naming conventions. So just bear that in mind before we start saying it's all wrong. It's not, but hopefully shortly Navigraph will do a data set for Pilot to ATC. Okay, so that's initially a quick introduction to this. Short, sharp, very, very unedited, and I'll probably leave it at that, and I'll do another one of some of the other functionalities and how we can use some of the functions across here. Just before I go, I'd just like to show you something. If I come back up into the airport, departure, Marseille, and I click the info button here, and what it gives you here is a lot more information than you got from the info box here. It gives you the country code. That becomes quite relevant if you want to introduce background chatter, and I'll do a video purely on adding and the folder structure of setting up your background chatter. Very similar to the other piece of software. No names, very, very similar, but slightly different and a bit more versatile and a bit more structured. We've got our transition level here and our transition altitudes. We've got an active runway. We've got the distance and bearing is not available because we're actually here. We've got the ICAO code and the name. We've got our frequencies as well here. So you've got an idea of some of the frequencies you're going to need at this airport before we use the frequencies over here. At the top here, we've got 2 other tabs, runway and gates. Again, it gives you the type of runway, it gives you the length and the width of the runway. It gives the ILS and the bearing. If the pattern coming out is left, and the altitude is 1,000 feet. And that's the AGL of the airport. Important bit here, we've got the gates. The selection of the gates is here. So if you want to depart from Pacific Gate, just select the gate. And more on the arrival side of it, if you want the arrival gate or you want to be taxied into a Pacific Gate, select the gate. And what happens is when you acquire taxi to gate, when you arrive at the other end, then P2A knows what gate and will give you the instructions to get you to that gate. Last tab I want to show on here is the weather tab. This is the raw metadata and the raw TAF data there. So you've got all the data that you want here for correct flight planning and the information for your flight. Running guys, I'm going to wrap this up on this one. Again, if you've got any questions, please let us know. You know where I am. I'm on Avsim. And on the Pilot to ATC forum there, and Dave will be around. He's currently very busy doing some open heart surgery and some brain surgery at the same time, I think. And that's on the software, by the way. That's that. Anyway, okay. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Any questions? Then please let us know. Drop us a line, post us a post on the old forum. I think most of you know my email address anyway. And then see you at the next time. Thanks, guys.